I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Who's your fire line? Order your fire line. Right face. To the front, march. Thank you, gentlemen.
I think what people need to know is that we're at a time, a very historic time in our country. And we are facing what is, by any definition, an invasion. An invasion that is bent on changing what we know as America into something very, very different. Secure that border first and keep it secured for a period of time before we ever begin to look at any type of so-called immigration reform. Meanwhile, the Minutemen will continue as we are now to stand our ground down here on this border. We're moving into the interior. We're going to continue to be a political force in this country because those of us here know what you know, but we've simply decided to come out and do something about it. The life of our republic depends on what happens on this southern border. A war in Iraq is a remote thing, you know, but what's coming across that southern border is going to be happening in your backyard. We know there are terrorists coming across that border. We know the drugs are coming across that border. We know criminal elements and very highly and sophisticated organized gangs are coming across that border. This government has decided to ignore it. Somehow or another, somebody is getting a benefit out of all of this that outweighs their concern for your safety and the safety of your children. So you have got to do something. And of course, I suggest you join Minuteman involved in the Corps. You come down to this border during the operations. If you absolutely cannot do that, then work in your own neighborhoods. We have a number of programs that are available to you. We will send people in to train your chapter. And we've got to move this struggle into every community in America, and no local, state, or federal politician can we allow to skate on this. This issue is the issue of our time. Every generation faces a threat that threatens the end of its existence. This is ours. This threat will end the republic as we know it and life in America as we know it. America will no longer be those great ideals that are enshrined in our founding documents. It's just going to be a geographical location. I grew up thinking that being an American meant believing in something, not necessarily where you were born. And that's no longer becoming true. America is just becoming a place for the world to dump the people that they don't want. One of the big lies that we hear all the time is that that Mexico is a poor country, and if we don't let them in, these people are going to starve. It's an absolute lie. Mexico is a fairly rich country. They have like the 5th largest economy in our hemisphere. What they have is an incredibly corrupt government who, as we speak, are conducting an ethnic and economic purge within their own country. They are driving out the Indians and whatnot and pushing them north because they don't want to deal with them. They don't want to provide the infrastructure for them, so they're simply sending them north and allowing us to do it for them. Then at the same time claiming to still hold sovereignty over their own citizens and attempting to create almost a co-country here in the Southwest. So there's a lot of lies that are told about this whole immigration debate. Ministry of Interior in Mexico says that most of these illegals that are crossing our border leave jobs to come here. So it's not a matter of survival for these people as much as it is that they want bigger and better toys. And, you know, we all want bigger and better toys, but most of us don't break the law and violate other people's sovereignty and security to get it. And that's what's happening here. That's bad enough. But the real travesty that we're facing here is we have a government that has chosen to absolutely ignore it. Absolutely ignore the threat that exists to the country through the drugs, through the criminal gangs, and through the terrorists. And again, they seem oblivious to how this is affecting life in America altogether. Our own perception of law, you know, the citizens' own perception of law. It's hard to take law seriously if they want to enforce it on you, but they don't want to enforce it on this other guy here. And George Bush has absolutely forgotten that what the rule of law actually means is that the law will be applied fairly and with equal vigor to all, regardless of place, station, or birth. And that's not happening in America anymore. So we are not a nation of laws. We have become a nation of men. And this legacy that was passed on to us by our founding fathers doesn't belong to the government, it belongs to us. So if we want to preserve it, then it's going to be up to us to take the actions that will be necessary to force this government to do that preservation. And if we continue to ignore this problem, it will overwhelm us. We're at the verge of overwhelming now. And the thing that people need to realize that this issue affects everything in our life. Everybody has their pet issue. You got people out there who are interested in women's rights. You've got people who are really concerned about the environment, are really concerned about children. And this issue affects all of it, and yet all of these groups are silent on it. You know, the House Subcommittee on Homeland Security put out their Line in the Sand report, in which they state uncategorically that a woman who gets involved in this illegal human trade and comes across that border is going to be sexually assaulted. It's almost a certainty. Where are the women's rights groups screaming about this? We understand that, and especially if you've been down to the border country and you've seen the absolute stacks of trash and whatnot, you're looking at somewhere between 1 million and 5 million people a year coming across that border. There's no facilities out there, so you have that much human waste coming through there every year. All of the attendant debris that it takes to get them across, the plastic bags, the cans, the water bottles, none of this stuff. I mean, it is destroying the environment of the desert. All right, you know, talking about little kids, you know, we're pretty focused on our children in this country. All of us have heard stories of women who have gone to jail or had their children taken away from them because they left them sitting in a car while they ran in to get a soda pop. And yet we catch every year probably tens of thousands of small children being dragged across the most hostile environment there is in the world in the hands of professional criminals, and we do nothing to those parents. And where are the child advocates on this issue? Many of these children will be put into the sex trade. Many of these women will be put into the sex trade. There's no cry by the Sierra Club or all the rest of these people to get down here and protect our environment. You know, this is an issue that encompasses all of American life. And nowhere, if you do a real study of it, can you find a benefit to the average American in his life. You know, the only people who are benefiting from this mass invasion are, number one, the drug cartels, the criminals, and those employers who are scurrilous enough to exploit refugees who come across our border. And there is nothing wholesome, there is nothing American about that. It is a betrayal of the entire American ideal.
We're common people.